multiplying polynomials. Our objective is to, well, simply multiply polynomials. Why learn this? You can multiply polynomials to write expressions for areas. Let's first practice multiplying monomials. So in this first one, you're going to multiply your numbers together. So that would give you 20, and then deal with your variables. So you have x squared and x to the third, and when you multiply common bases, you add their exponents, so we have x to the fifth. Now let's try b. Multiply the numbers together, so we have negative 3 times 4, which is negative 12. And now we deal with our variables, x to the third and x, which is like saying x to the first, remember? So we now have x to the fourth. And then we have y squared and y to the fifth, which bring us to y to the seventh. It's no different when you have a fraction. You're still multiplying this half times 6, which in this case is 3. And now you have a. You have a to the third and a squared, and there's no a in this third term. So we end up with 3 and 2 making 5. So we have a to the fifth. Okay, let's make that look a little bit more like an a to the fifth. There we go. And now we have b. We have b to the first and b to the second. There's no b in the second term, so therefore 1 and 2 make 3, so we have b to the third. And we only have one c value here, and it's c squared, so it's just going to be c squared. Now let's try multiplying a polynomial by a monomial. So in this case, it's distributing. So you would distribute the 5 to every term inside the parentheses. So we have 5 times 2x squared would be 10, and then x squared. So same as we did when we were multiplying our monomials, we multiply our numbers and then we deal with our variables. So 5 times 2 makes 10, and there's no other x, so just x squared. And now we have 5 times x. Well, that's just simply going to be 5x. Remember, when you distribute, you multiply. And then we have 5 times 4, which is going to be 20. So now let's look at this next one. We have 2x squared y times this binomial 3x minus y. So 2 times 3 is 6. So we're doing this term to this one here. And now we have x squared and x to the first, which makes x to the third. There's no y value, so we just have the one y there. Now we need the second term, so we have 2x squared y times this minus y. So it's going to be negative 2. You can think of it as having a 1 in front and 1 as an exponent. There's no other x's, so it's just x squared. And then we have y to the first and y to the first, which makes y to the second. Now let's try c. So we're going to distribute this 4a to each term. So 4a times a squared b. So 4 times 1 is 4. And now we deal with our variables. A and then a squared give us a to the third. We've only got this one b here, so we're just going to write that down. Plus, and now we have 4a times 2b squared. So we multiply our numbers, so 4 times 2, which is 8. There's no other a's, so we're going to keep that. And then we have a b squared here. So taking it up a notch, we're going to multiply binomials together. When you do this, you no longer have a monomial that just gets distributed. Now each term in your binomial is going to be distributed. So if you need to, you can use arrows to distribute, or you can rewrite it. So you're like, okay, well, this x needs to be distributed amongst this x minus 5, and then this 2 needs to be distributed amongst the x minus 5. So you can use the arrows to help you out when distributing, or you can write it out to help you. And then you go back to what you were doing before. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. And then you have 2 times x, which is plus 2x. And 2 times negative 5, which is negative 10. And we have to combine like terms. So we end up with x squared minus 3x minus 10. So let's look at b. We have the quantity x plus 5 squared. This is not a product. It doesn't say 5 times x. So therefore you can't just say x squared and 5 squared. This whole quantity is being multiplied this many times, in this case twice. So you need to rewrite it so it says x plus 5 times x plus 5. And then you follow what you did in A. So we're going to distribute the x to each term. So the x needs to be distributed. So we have x squared. And then the x is going to be distributed to the second term. So we have plus 5x. And then your 5 needs to be distributed. So 5 times x gives you another 5x. And 5 times 5 is 25. Once again, when you're multiplying binomials, or even if I throw a trinomial in there, each term in the first one needs to be multiplied by each term in the second. So you have to distribute each piece, whether you write it out or you use the arrows to help you. So we have one step left. We're going to combine like terms. So we have x squared plus 10x plus 25. Take a moment and try C on your own. When you return to the video, the answer will be revealed below. So we distribute the 3a squared, and then we distribute this minus b, and you end up with 3a to the fourth minus 6a squared b minus a squared b plus 2b squared, and then we combine like terms, so our two center terms are our only like terms, to give us this minus 7a squared b. So this is when that trinomial comes into play that I was talking about. So we're going to distribute this x to every term. Okay? So we end up with x to the third minus 5x squared plus 4x. So we only just distributed the x all the way across to each of our three terms in this trinomial. Now we're going to do the same thing with the 2. So we're going to distribute the 2 to each term. So we end up with plus 2x squared minus 10x plus 8. And then we can combine like terms. So that gives us x to the third, because there's only one of them. And then we have 2x squareds here. So we've got a negative 5x squared and a 2x squared, which bring us to 3x squared. And we've got two terms here. We have with an x, we have 4x and negative 10x, which bring us to negative 6x. And there's only one term that's constant, so plus 8. Take a moment and try B on your own. When you return to the video, the answer will be revealed below. And there you have it. When you see something like x minus 2 and that quantity to the third power, just like when we saw it to the second power earlier in this video, you can't just say x to the third minus 2 to the third. It's that whole quantity 3 times. So it's going to be x minus 2 times x minus 2 times x minus 2. And then when you do this, you do the first two terms first. So you're going to do this, the first x minus 2 times x minus 2, and you're going to get yourself a trinomial. then you're going to distribute the trinomial amongst this x minus 2. So there are multiple steps that need to be taken. Let's try it. So we have x times x, which is x squared, x times negative 2, which is going to be negative 2x. Negative 2 times x is going to be negative 2x. And negative 2 times negative 2 is plus 4. Combine like terms. So we have x squared minus 4x plus 4. This trinomial needs to be multiplied by this binomial. So just like you distributed each term in the first binomial to each term in the second, you're going to do the same thing. So each term of the trinomial is going to be distributed amongst each term in your binomial. So now we have x squared times x, which is x to the third. And then we have x squared times negative 2, which is negative 2x squared. Now the next term. So we have negative 4x times x, which gives us negative 4x squared. And negative 4x times negative 2 is plus 8x. And now our third term. We have 4 times x, so we have plus 4x. And then we have 4 times negative 2, which gives us negative 8. And then our very last step would be to combine like terms. So we have x to the third minus 6x squared. That's those two terms there. And then we have plus 12x and then minus 8. Take a moment and pause the video and try D on your own. When you return to the video, the answer will be revealed below. And there you have it. This also ends our video on multiplying polynomials.